podcast where we put you on the map. This is Ron Costa broadcasting live from the Mappable USA studios in Las Vegas, Nevada. And folks, today we're going to talk about something that's really revolutionary in the real estate and the construction business. You're not going to want to miss this. Go get a coffee, sit back. You're really going to enjoy this one if you're in the industry. So before we get going with that, let's introduce Vicky Hutchmala from the QOZ Marketplace and the Opportunity Zones Authority. Vicky, how's it going today?
Great. It's great, Ron. Friday, it's fabulous. It's Las Vegas. What more could we want except we have outstanding guests today, and we're going to talk about something that's futuristic but available today that will change the world of construction. So let's get going.
Exactly. Okay, well, let's introduce Angelo Farruggia. He's the founder of GloGreen's. Angelo, how are you doing today?
Really good. Thank you for having us.
Great. We also have John Kadiya. He's a partner in the business. John, how are you?
I'm doing excellent. Windy out here in California.
Oh, I'll tell you, no matter how bad it is, it's still better than the East Coast where they're getting hit by snow and they're shoveling and they're getting into all kinds of accidents. So we're happy here where we are, right, guys?
Yeah,
right.
absolutely
right. But yeah, we got a really interesting. You guys are doing some amazing work over at GloGreen, and I think before we get going into that, Angelo, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself, maybe your background, and how you kind of got involved in all this?
Yes, quick, because if not, it will take way too long. But so I was born in
Keep it short,
Brussels.
Angelo. Keep it short.
Yes, I was born in Brussels, Belgium, a couple of years ago. And my family are from Italy, living in Italy, and I study in France. I became a psychiatrist at La Sorbonne in Paris. And then quickly, after 4 years, having my office and working in hospital, I knew that was not the way I wanted to go. And my family are builder. Since I was born, I was in concrete pipes and roofing. And so I knew that was the word I wanted to go. So quickly I changed. And since 14 years now, I've been working with really amazing people on how to change the world of construction and the world of real estate. Because no matter where we are in the world, we see that slowly it's going to the wall. And if we don't pause to think about it, we can't find the solution, because you can't change like the wheel while the car is running. So this is what we've been doing for 14 years. And today we're ready to explain actually where we are and what we put together. And we are really grateful that people like you actually exist and allow us to have a voice outside, because from the lab and in our offices, it's easy, to become autist and talking to ourselves and think that everything is good. But when we got out there, we discovered that it's still not easy to actually implement those ideas and those technology. So it's great. Thank you to have us.
Yeah, and what you're doing over at GloGreen, a lot of people use the word revolutionary all the time. We have a revolutionary part. But what you're doing really is, because it's so original and there's so much potential for the future. And why don't you give us a little overview of GloGreen, the company, and what it does?
Sure. So GloGreen, in the beginning, it was created as a R&D design-build company. So the design-build is because we know how to build and we need some money to survive. So we used to do architecture, engineering, and build interesting project. As you know, we had some award on housing that we built in 2014, but that's really, I would say, to pay the bills. And then the R&D part was to sit and try to solve the problem of real estate and construction. And I really say real estate because we started by thinking technology and material, and then quickly you discover that it's just a little piece of the puzzle that you have to change, that you have to think globally. And this is how GloGreen has been working in America since now 10 years, but since 14 years altogether. And I have people like John here to me who really start by giving the maximum, and they're here now for 4 years already. That time goes really fast.
Yeah.
And so solving small problem at a time, understanding insulation, understanding concrete, understanding the robotic here and there, and finally discovering that we can really actually change the entire process of real estate. But it will take all the vertically integrated elements, from the material to the architecture, to the engineering, to the contractor, and the developer at the end, to be able to revolutionize the world of real estate. And I think we are ready today. So this is where we are. But if we want to enter now more in detail, we can talk. And I will let a little bit the word to John here, because I want to know how he summarized what we've been doing since ever.
That was going to be our next question. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask one quick question, John, before you get into yourself and that. I don't know if I would like working for a boss or a partner who was a psychiatrist. I don't think you could, you'd have to be really careful and on your toes all the time.
That's the right question.
You should have seen me at the beginning. I was actually gonna talk about this. I was gonna keep this away, but I'm gonna talk about it now. When I first moved I went to college in Ohio, and I then moved to California because, I was frustrated with the construction industry. There is very rudimentary, and I was like looking for a progressive world where I could, try and put some ideas together. And I moved to California, and I go on Craigslist, and I'm like, all right, I need to get a job. If not, I'm going to be broke because this is an expensive city, right? So I go on Craigslist, and I see this ad, and this post says, if you want to be a ninja and change the world of construction, and I'm paraphrasing right now, please put in your application and come over to this address. So I put in an application, I get a response back, and I get invited to this address. This address is at the top of Beverly Hills, right? It's a beautiful 157-acre property. It's actually, you could look it up, it was probably appraised at about $1 billion at one point. And this gate opens, and I drive my car. This car comes down this long driveway, and I follow this car back up to the top of the hill. And so I see a few people, and I see this guy, this dude who looks like Kenny G, but also, you can tell he likes a little bit of cheesecake. No offense, actually.
He likes food. Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, this has to be a scam. Like this is not real. And I see containers, and I'm like, wow, this is definitely the dream. Because ever since I was in college, I was like, containers was a big thing for me, and so I see containers and I see a little bit of a model or a prototype, and I start getting excited. So that's where that journey began. And knowing he's a psychiatrist, it was kind of intimidating at the beginning, but getting to know Angelo, you get to know, the real person and the empathetic side of the individual. And normally psychiatrists are pretty reserved and pretty quiet. But if you get to know Angelo, he's quite the opposite. So yeah.
Yeah, we know Angelo. We know.
I like to tell them that I stopped to be a psychiatrist because I'm tired to listen. I want to talk. So.
Well,
everybody's problems.
But John, that's the difference. John, that's the difference between me and you. When you reply to an ad on Craigslist, you get a life-changing job. When I reply to an ad on Craigslist, I get mugged at the gas station. So.
And I knew he was a bad reputation, but I have to say, Craigslist to me has been really, really, really good. I have 4 of on 12 people that I hired that time, 4 of them really became close to me, like family. John is one of them, so that's already. But in the beginning, you cannot imagine how many jobs and relationship and everything started really with Craigslist. So I can't say nothing negative of that way of communication.
Let's dive into the technology here of GloGreen's. Tell us about what the technology is and who your customers are, who benefits from your product and what you're doing.
Yes. First we had to start from the beginning. So the real question was how we can answer to the real three problems that are in the world of real estate today. The first one is Earth. How we can, and the ecology and everything who is behind it, with the most positive way, not politically. I'm not interested by that. It's really how we answer to make the world a better place for Earth. Then the second one was making the world a better place for the person who live in that house, the human itself. So every person, like we know, it become the more and more expensive. The quality of the building become less and less good, and so that was the second one. And in the third one, I was a little bit biased because I thought it was kind of greed that was making the world of real estate so expensive. But I discovered that it was not actually. It's just a natural process to make that we became waste on the world of real estate, waste of money, waste of material, waste of human. So and this is because nobody never took a moment to back up and look at the entire project and not just one material, one technology, or one financial structure. It was the entire process. And we discovered that you have to change every one of them. If not, it won't work. And the first one that has to be changed was technology, so that we know everybody think about modular today. And it's true, you have to go to manufacturing. If you don't bring manufacturing into the process, it's impossible to build buildings who are good, but fast and cheaper. It's impossible. So yes, manufacturing is a good solution. But the second one is manufacturing is not everything because it doesn't give you freedom of design. You are linked a little bit to that. So how create freedom of design? And people say, yeah, but how? It's true, but that's really the goal of GloGreen. It was to create freedom of design. And the only way to do that is to give 20% to the on-site and only 80% in the off-site, which I call the manufacturing process. If you don't do that, it's impossible by doing 100% in the manufacture to be able to give a freedom of design. So the maximum we could pack into the factory was up to 80% of the construction, which is already a lot. And the rest of the 20 are made by human on site, but the same team through the same roof. And the third part, which is really important, is the vertically integrated. Unfortunately, every person or company become in between a layer from the moment we think about building to the moment of we selling the house is too many intermediary, too many middle people, and you make too much money. Like I like to give that example. When I arrived in America in 2009, it was a big news in California. I would say a huge developer went out of business because he invested $50 million in a project who worth $30 million overnight because of 2008. And yes, it's true. Everybody say, oh, wow, the crisis was. But what's happened is the contractor who came home with the $50 million, he didn't say, oh, I'm sorry that the economy is bad. Let me give you back a little bit of my profit.
Right.
That you don't go broke, you know? So
yeah,
the developer, and that's the real problem. The developer who is the one who take the risk, he is held hostage by everybody else. By the contractor, by the architect, by the engineer, and everybody else, and here there is no judgment. It's really analyzing the society. Everybody else has to deal with his own society, his own business, so he has his own life and he has to make a profit and everything, so he need to have multiple customers. So we ended up in a world so chaotic that actually is impossible to even find how we save some money. So this is what we did. First, we found a factory. Okay, in the factory it's easy to control the material. It's easy to control the labor because it's in the factory. And we did that. We create 3 materials. One, it had to do with the skeleton. We need to find the skeleton with not wood, because no matter what they say, wood is not a source that you can find often. Second one is, can we find the material that is recyclable as a skeleton? And really, it was appeared to me years ago, like probably 20 years ago. I like to travel all over the world, and literally you have 2 things you can find everywhere you are. In Africa, South America, or Europe or America, is chicken and shipping container. So chicken don't help for the construction, so we put them on the side. But shipping containers are really, really fantastic. They are really strong material because they were made for ocean. And ocean is the sum of everything we fear on Earth. Water, tornado, earthquake, everything is in the ocean. And that material is made for it. And you can find them because after 12 years, they actually are out of business. But the steel is still really good. So you have today world over 150 million shipping containers rusting. I'm not talking about the new one. I'm talking about the ones that are rusting. And you need, imagine, 150 million. You need 500 of them to make a 200-unit apartment building. Only 500. So we can build entire cities all over the world with those 150 that are rusting. And that's where we started. And it needed an entire process to do that. This is why it's difficult to enter inside in the technology. But in fact, the laws are kind of made well, especially the code. We usually criticize the code because it tried to block us. But in reality, it was not taught badly. For example, you can bring any material on any technology into the market. The only thing you have to do is certify it. But in the world that we are today, it's difficult to do because imagine, I try to certify a new material. I'm going to put a lot of money in R&D. Then when I have the R&D, I have to put a lot of money in certifying. But now I have to go outside and convince people to sell it and to use my new material, which is complicated. So here the idea was to find this new material and having the possibility to use it into the factories. Like that, every time I have a new material, I don't have to try to sell it. It's just a new formula into a system which is already working. There is nobody to convince, just to prove that it's better and cheaper and we can use it. So this is why shipping container is a strong material and is recycling, so it's really cheap. And if you do the things right, maybe in the future we can go into it, actually with the factory, we can say that we can bring the skeleton, which is the framing of your building, at $1 a foot. $1 a foot for the framing. And it's still steel framing. Exact. So this is fantastic. And all that is because it was an entire process. We had to certify the calculation of the steel. We had to find a way to decontaminate the container to be able to certify it. But you see, all that required a lot of time and a lot of money. So now if I go out in a normal conventional process, I will have to go to all those conventions, try to convince contractor to use my material. And we know when people have their own way to do things, they don't like to change. So this is difficult to do that process. Here, now we build a factory, and that factory can produce. I build 10 factories. Every factory will use what the R&D, what the certification and everything is done one time for every process. So this is what we do for everything. And we have the skeleton done as a steel, but then it was also, and John really worked a lot on this one, it was how we find an insulation. Because that's also one of the problems, is that our houses are like trying to catch sand with an open hand. And we know that half of, 3/4 of the sand goes away. So how we can make the energy of the consumption really lower. And the only way to do that is really by understanding the insulation. So we had to find a way. Today, insulation, whatever it means, in the world of construction, you have to go toward R19. That's the code, whatever that means. And to reach a little bit more, it costs really expensive. So the goal was how we can have a really high insulation and reducing that cost. And we discovered a new concrete that is made with 66% recycled paper. And we all know that recycled paper today is a real problem in America because China doesn't take anymore the recycled paper. So it's stocking everywhere here since the past 2 years, which is fantastic to me because we can do a lot of papercrete. So we create a papercrete block who actually bring the insulation from R19 to R79, which is 4 times at half the price. But 4 times they have a big signification. If I create a box close at R19 and I create a box close at R79, I need to add heating and cooling, which is energy, on the R19 every 30 minutes, on the R79 every 8 hours. So
oh my God.
Can you imagine? Voila. So you need 25% of the energy to cool and heat the same building, same size, if it's R79. 25% less. I don't know if you imagine. That's the really important. And then we needed a third material, because everybody think about the frame. You know, you hear outside a 3D printer, you hear outside a hempcrete and all that, but that's always the wall. The part who is expensive in a house is the finishes, the tile, the tub, the door, the windows, the roof, the wall panel, all those. So, and I have to say we were lucky on this one. Is that we have a concrete that we created about also approximately at the same time, about 11, 12 years ago, which is called ultra high performance concrete. And that concrete is literally a liquid rock who can take any shape and any color. It's difficult to imagine when we do that orally, but if I show you one sample, immediately we understand. So imagine a liquid material who is as strong as steel almost, can take the shape of a bathtub, the shape of a door, of a countertop, a sink, tile on the floor, but for cheap price. So for example, in the factory, if we want to build a bathtub with custom, 7 foot by 3, beautiful with the logo of whatever name of the hotel or the building is, it will cost $90 and it's almost indestructible. So this is what it make a difference. If you go to buy a conventional bathtub, the minimum, the cheapest of piece of plastic is $127 today on the market. So can you imagine? Instead of a plastic for $127, you have a stone, indestructible, will take any shape for $90. And you can do the same for the doors. You can do the same for the wall panel exterior. And this concrete is waterproof, is earthquake proof because it's really strong, but it's also, and we have some nice video, is bomb proof. So it supports hurricane, earthquake, and that's the exterior part and the finish part. So now you have your 3 main material that you control inside the factory that allow you to do 80% of the building. So This is what we build up to today. So that factory literally could build like about, we call 10 million square feet per year, because we brought the best in America, and I believe in the world, to design our factory. It's a company called Columbia Tech in Boston. They are involved in the design of Tesla factory. They're involved in GM factory. They are involved in designing right now robots for Amazon. So that company, their job since probably 100 years is to help create from idea to manufacturing. And they've been with us, and I'm really, really grateful for that. They've been with us for now the past 5, almost 6 years, and they've been helping. So there is no limit for them. When I call them and I say, hey, we have a problem, we need to create a decontamination chamber, boom, you have Columbia Tech finding a way to create a decontamination chamber. So this is what is fantastic. So imagine that factory will be the top robotic and that you can have in the world everywhere. So we took robots to come from the auto industry. We took a CNC machine to come from super high-end industry who make elements that are really expensive for the aerospace, and we put those into that factory. A system of software will allow you from the architect to design the building the first time to don't need anything anymore, decompose the structural, the HVAC, the plumbing, everything automatically inside the building, the factory, and then build that process module by module that can be assembled on site and finish on site. So that's what we really created today. And this is one part of the construction. So this can solve minimum, I would say 40% to 50% of the construction cost. But then we brought another important secret, I think, and strategy. is what I call the global strategy, because we can save even another 20 to 30% of it if the factory is completely vertically integrated. So because we know all the technology, all the engineers, all the architects, all the entitlement, all the contractor is inside the factory now. So you hire them. And because you don't have to go to a process to pay a company, a business that has 10 other job and project, you don't have to pay the profit of nobody. Your factory, so you can hire now the employee and double their profit, the salary is still going to be cheap than you going toward other company outside. And I give you a simple example. Today, if you call Cemex, for example, I don't like to use name, but a concrete premix company, and you call them to do your foundation, the first question they ask you is who you are. So if you say, oh, I'm a owner or developer, they give you one price. If you say I'm a contractor, they ask you your license, and they give you another price, which is cheaper. More than that, if you say to them that I'm a concrete contractor, they will ask you your license, and you will have even cheaper. So imagine your factory having all the license necessary to do everything in construction. Architect, contractor, engineer, everybody. So all those licenses are in the factory. So now the factory can build the housing, but also plan, make the plans, make the permits, stamp the plan, and have the building. So the developer doesn't need anymore to go to all the hustle of finding a good contractor, finding a good architect. Everybody is in-house, working with a technology that works by itself, and now you don't need anymore to use. And that's also one of the elements that is important, is that the factory, and we can talk about that, some people are okay, some people are not okay, is that today, if you want to build 500 homes, turnkey, you need approximately the equivalent of 5,000 full-time jobs, okay? This is, and sometimes it's difficult to find it. With the factory, to build 5,000 homes, you need 500 full-time jobs. So It doesn't matter how much you pay anymore your employees. So you can triple, quadruple the minimum wage. You still under what it will cost you outside. So now we change a little bit because we have to think about the future. We know already that our generation doesn't like anymore working, in a factory and doing the same job all the time, especially in our countries. So if we want to bring back the job in our countries, which is the real problem today, the fight with China and countries like that, is we have to be able to give real job, real pay in our society. We're never going to have our kids going to work in the factory for $8 an hour, and probably not even for $15 an hour anymore. They dream to have a job who is gratifying, who bring them the possibility to create, to become better. So this is what's happening in the factory. If I need only 500 people, I don't care anymore how much I pay them instead of 5,000, for example. So now those persons who are men and women, because the physically job is done by the robot, it doesn't matter if you are a man or a woman, there is no difference. So you can actually provide for your family again. You don't need to try to find 3 jobs. You can have a real salary with enough to go to work, to provide for your entire family. So this is where I believe we can bring back the job in our country, is by creating jobs who are first high and paid, but also who are gratifying the person. And one of the elements that I really believe in is that inside the factory there is a school. First, because you have to train the people you hire, but also because I believe that every person in the factory should have the right and the possibility to become something else if he put the time in it, and it doesn't have to cost him. So if someone who is hired to be a machinist wants to become an architect, he can be inside the factory, paid by the factory, outside of his hour of working. He could work and learn how to become an architect inside that factory or inside another factory, because it's the same technology. Voilà, so that's a lot to digest, but if you have questions.
Wow.
maybe it's the
I do. I have a lot of questions. You're blowing me away with all this information, Angelo. But for starters, you mentioned this whole process. It sounds like this process is a custom process, right? You could do custom construction with this. Is that right?
Yes. It's the only way you can be free of design. You have to be able to do a custom house outside, but for the same price of a standard house. And that is only by doing that. All the technology and the material that I've been talking to you.
Okay. And then we're talking about single-family homes for the most part here, but can you build other asset classes with this type of technology?
Yes, sorry. It's the opposite. I believe that for the need of the growing humanity, single-family home will become almost obsolete. And with what we have today, some people could be afraid because who want to live in an apartment the way they are done today? But imagine every building could be a resort because it's really cheap and high-end technology. Now we make maybe more sense that instead of building to say, oh, the single-family home are the great model that we want to go through, and the apartment building is only to put the people who can afford the house, I think it would be, for the future, it would be the opposite. If you see the economists and the geopolitical scientists, they tell you that Los Angeles and San Diego in 50 years will be one city, like 60 million people in that. So how do you answer to that with single-family homes? It's not possible. But you cannot answer to that with a single apartment building where everybody's stuck on top of everybody. It's not possible. I have great design from architects all over the world that I can send to attach that in the future, and you will see. In fact, it's creating, like I say, resort-style apartment building where everything is there, where actually there is less and less need to move out to work, to live inside those 10,000 units. You will have schools, you will have park, swimming pools, gym, everything that is dreaming with a space, because it's not stackable, because the only way today we can save money is to stack and to create density of population, but because it's expensive. So if we can reduce the cost, the maximum drastically, and I really say up to 75% cheaper than the cost of construction today, now you can put real living in it. A big project with park where the roof of one building is the park and the entertainment of another building, and creating like that is maybe difficult with the word, but you can imagine what it is, and that's the solution. So yes, you can build single family, you can build up to 30-story high, but you can also build a new type of construction, which is a mix. Yeah.
Right. I was just going to say, here in Vegas, maybe, and actually on the West Coast in general, it's not so much East Coast, but they build these work, live, play areas, and you would think that these major builders such as Lennar and Toll Brothers, national companies, they should be all over this kind of technology, because it sounds like you could do what they're doing both better and cheaper. So I mean, right? Isn't that the big selling point here?
Yes. It's really that the second point. But like I said, those companies will come to that. But they are really too busy fighting the hard war of a developer outside today, and they don't have the habit of investing in R&D and new technology who doesn't exist. And that was the conversation that we're having in the beginning together, is always that chicken and egg position. So we are in a position where is so game-changing that if we don't prove the first one, it's going to be hard for those big companies to come in. And that's the system. And this is where we are today. But we are moving forward, like I was saying. We found strategy to finance the first factory. And if we could have all the help out there, we're still open today, because the most complex part is for us is to find the financing for the first factory. When the first factory is built, then it's finished, it's done. And everybody, I don't want to compare myself to Tesla or Elon Musk, but this is what he had to do. In the beginning, everybody was saying electric car is a golf cart, And we know that it was 20, 15 years ago. This is what he was. This is why he had to create a car, and he didn't create the cheaper one first because he didn't want to be seen as a low-cost car. So he created a good one, a first one. And now nobody can say anymore that electric cars are golf carts. They are real cars. So this is what's happened today. So we have to use imagination, maybe crowdfunding, maybe friends and family. This is what we've been doing up to today. Maybe other strategy to be able to build this first factory. And we have land, we have place to do it. We are talking and negotiating with interesting developers and investors, but it's still really hard. And the goal is really to build that first factory. But like I like to say to people when they say, but that factory doesn't exist, it's true. But like to give a metaphor, if I come to you with a beautiful concept car, is nice on paper, but you're going to tell me, have you built a car before? And it's true, I never. But if I tell you that I have a concept car, but I sign a contract with Ferrari who built car for 100 years now we make more sense. Columbia Tech is the same on this analogy of the Ferrari. Columbia Tech is been building and designing factories for the past literally 100 years. So, and they are with us, and they can say it. We can talk the CTO, John Kadiya. Anybody can call them, and they will see how much they have a good image of us, and we really are friends with them. They are the one who can say, yes, we know this factory is feasible. Because
Angelo, or John, actually, I have one more question before we close this out. You're talking about building the first factory. Is the plan, the long-term plan here, to put different factories in different states so that you can transport a little easier? I mean, obviously, you're not going to build something in California that is going to be located in Dallas, Texas, right? So is that kind of like an expansion idea for the future?
No, absolutely. That's a great point. So the goal is to have it actually global, but let's focus nationally. The design, which I'm a lead AP from the U.S. Green Building Council, was to study all these sustainability factors. And so we'll be able to cover about 100-mile radius where you wouldn't have to source materials from, from the East Coast to bring to the West Coast. All materials will be sourced locally. And it will be a cookie-cutter pretty much system that can be duplicated all over the country.
So how much do you need to build your first factory?
Yeah, so
how much money are you looking at?
So it's funny, at the beginning, we've been trying to figure out the actual number to give to investors or developers, and $25 million was the initial cost. And this is the cost. But now we've been trying to make it palatable and digestible for investors, because $25 million seems like a huge risk to them, which is what we've been observing. And so we've been able to come down to a smaller amount of $7 million, and then continue to seek more funding or come up with different strategies all the way up to $25 million.
Oh, okay. So you're starting smaller and then building to the ideal one, but making it more appealable to more investors. That makes a lot of sense. So if somebody wants to go through this project and you have a builder who wants to use your process, what do they have to do? Do they say, okay, where's your factory? Can I build a factory? What's the next step?
So it's important, your question, because actually that's the core. It is a little bit of what slows us down, but also it is important to the next step. One of the problems also in the world of real estate is selling. So the contractor sell to the developer, then he sells. So you increase every time with the profit, and you ended up with apartments who are in Los Angeles, $3,000 for a one-bedroom unit per month, which has become really expensive. So what's happened here, the idea is that we want to create a licensing system where the core is a factory. A factory is 100 miles radius, and a factory can build up to 10 million square feet of anything that they want to do. So one developer or 10 developers together, they can own this factory. anywhere they want in America. Actually, we try to go everywhere, but in America right now. And they could build around this 100 miles radius. Now, for sure, there are some exceptions because I had a friend that said, yeah, but if I'm in Montana, 100 miles radius, there might be only cows. So he told me that. So, and I say it's true. So when I say 100 miles radius, is for cities and development in cities. And they're really made for big developer in the beginning. But the goal is for us to give the factory as a tool, like a license. And then the developer use that tool to make all his projects. So the first one, we okay to be developer. We okay to have investor who have projects that we can use into the factory. And we can actually, at the end of the day, we can give back that factory to that developer. Because our goal is to be able to sell license, so to sell multiple factory to multiple developer all over America. So
that is a great business idea. Yeah, that is a really good strategy. I love that idea that you just mentioned. And Vicky, you're here in Las Vegas with me. You drive around Henderson all the time. There's so much development projects going on. Wouldn't that be right for Angelo's project? I mean, my God, it's a gold mine here in Nevada and Henderson in particular.
Absolutely, because with a 100-mile radius, if you were to build a factory in the Vegas Valley, you could serve Henderson and Boulder City and Mesquite and Pahrump and I mean you could serve a lot of cities besides Vegas. And if you own the factory, the license, as Angelo says, then you can build your own projects, but you can also build the projects of other developers and other builders, so that it's not just you, but you've now spread out to all the builders within that 100-mile radius, that now you get a piece of their action. So what a score is that, Angelo?
Yes.
Yep. And and like I said, Angelo, as one Italian to another, you're on the right track. I love what you're doing. Bravo. It's all. And it's funny. You went through your whole thing before, and you explained it so well. I'm guessing that's the same pitch that you gave John when he came in for the first interview. Is that right?
Yes. Actually,
using that little bit of psychology.
Yes. The first thing I said to John when he arrived, he asked me if he needed a tie, and I told him that I don't own tie. So
ever since then I've been wearing sweatpants and hoodies.
I love it.
There you
go. Sounds good.
A little more creativity there.
Well, guys, listen, I got to say, go on, Vicky, finish it off.
I just want to say, Angelo, we do a lot of podcasts with a lot of people and a lot of very creative ideas and world-changing ideas, but this idea that you have, you're like the Renaissance man of construction, Angelo, and you and John have this fabulous idea that really, truly can change the world, and it's just, my mind is still reeling from all the information that you just gave me and the potential and the possibilities, and oh my God, Angelo, I can't believe it. You definitely are a Renaissance special man.
Thank you. Really, thank you.
Yeah.
Kudos.
And last thing, Angelo, if someone's listening to the podcast right now and wants to get more information, how do they contact you? What's the best way?
The best way is by email, I believe, because my email. We have a website also with more based on the consulting part, but they contact us through the website, which is
www.glogreen.org, and GloGreen is spelled GLO, so glogreen.org.
But they also can send email to Angelo@glogreen.org or John.Kadiya@glogreen.org.
Okay, and like always, we'll definitely link that into the show notes so everybody can just click on that and get to you really quickly. So, guys, thank you so much for being a guest on the show today. It was really informative. I think we really opened up a lot of people's eyes, especially just bringing this to the construction business. My God, it could turn the whole thing upside down. in a good way. So Angelo, thank you. John, thank you. Vicky, thanks for co-hosting. And everyone out there, you are listening to the Mappable USA podcast at mappableusa.com. If you go to that website, scroll down a little bit, you'll see all our syndication sources. Pick the one you like, subscribe, and you'll never miss another one of our podcasts. If you want to be a guest in the show like Angelo and John were today, you could just click on the guest tab. We'll see what we can do about getting you on the show. And if you like what you heard today, send us an email, info@mappableusa.com, or just comment on whatever page you're listening to this on right now. So thanks for listening. Thanks for your support. And we'll be at you next time on another Mappable USA podcast. Have a great week, everyone.